Hey, Cecil, tell me a little bit more about default interface methods.
Sure. So when we think about interfaces in C Sharp, we kind of look at them like they're the blueprints of our code, right? They let us know the methods and the properties that we can make use of when we're working with different classes or structs or records. But now in C Sharp 8, we have this feature called default interface methods that will allow us to add like a default implementation to new methods that we want to add to our existing interfaces. And actually, why don't I show you what it looks like with a quick demo?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so let's head over to Visual Studio Code really quickly. And what you can see here is that I have an interface defined called I do stuff, and it has a single method inside of it called do something. So if I wanted to actually implement that interface, I could come down here like this. I could say I do something. And now I just need to give my class an actual implementation. So in here, I'll write something like, I am doing something right now.
Okay, so far this is just like the normal C# interface implementation. There's nothing special going on. This is the same thing we've done for years.
Exactly. Nothing special, nothing different yet. But here's the thing. What happens if I want to add additional functionalities in my code? I want to add new features or even add new methods to my interface. Well, if I wanted to add something to my interface, I could do something like this, right? I could say, do something else, right? And so now my interface has two methods and not just one. But if you look at line 12, you can see I have a little red squiggly line. And the reason that's happening is because my thin class, well, it knew about that first version of my interface, but it doesn't know about this new version that I've implemented. So now we have to figure out a way that we can get our code to continue to work. We have a couple options that we could explore. Now, first, I could, define a new interface. I could call this do stuff version 2, right? That has in that new method. Or if I wanted to, I could take do something out, right? Or I could take do something else out, and I can have it inside of a completely different interface. Now, these are two okay options, but now I have multiple interfaces that I'm wrestling with, and my code is starting to get a little bit messy. Well, in C Sharp 8, what I can do instead is just kind of give this a default implementation, right? And so now what will happen is, if you notice on line 14, that red squiggly line is no longer on my code, and I'm able to, still make use of this interface, and my existing code isn't broken. And now in here, kind of like what I told you, I can actually write code inside of this. So if I wanted to throw new not implemented exception, for instance, as an example, like I can do that in here, or I can add whatever code I wanted to. But again, the main benefit is that my existing code that I have, or any existing code at all, whether it's mine or someone else's, is not going to be broken when I add new methods to this existing interface.
So what you're telling me, Cecil, is I can actually start writing implementation code inside of an interface.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. And again, like as you have your existing interfaces and you want to add new features and functionality, you can do that. And let's not cause problems for folks that are using it before. Let's not break their code. But again, let's not stop our code from having the ability to, continue to grow.
Oh, that's cool. So another question for you, Cecil. We have the thin class down below. Is there anything stopping me from actually going ahead and implementing the do something else function down there?
No, not at all. You could totally go ahead and implement do something else, right? I could use this instead, right? And what will happen is that because do something else is still a part of that I do something interface. It'll just get used whenever you use this within the context of an instance of thing. So again, I'm not going to use that default implementation I had up on line 9. Instead, I'm going to use the one that I defined in my class that's here on line 22.
Oh, really cool. And so my last question here is then, what's the role of abstract classes? Are those obsolete now, or do they still have a place in our C# world?
No, for sure. There's still totally a place for abstract classes. And so here's kind of where I see them fit, right? If you want to have a type that has methods you want to have them implement, but you also have some default implementation up front, or some common functionality that you want to have shared between things that inherit from the abstract class, like that's obviously the way to go. But if you started off with interfaces and you want to, again, you want to evolve your interfaces, you want to iterate on them and add additional functionality to them, but I don't want to break the existing folks that are using my interface currently, And what I could do is use default interface methods and add that functionality. And again, that would, one, allow me to continue to enhance my code and also not interrupt the workflow of folks that have already, taken a dependency on that interface that I defined.
Oh, super cool. Thank you for that, Cecil. That's great. And if you want to learn more about default interface methods, check out the links to all our documentation below.